Hello everyone, Cleric here again, going over what I'm going to call my top 5 unused weapons that I feel like people should give a shot. It's not going to be slept on, it's not going to be meta breaking and all this other nonsense. These are ones that I personally have found some success with and have used in different builds and actually managed to make them work in various forms, even against the quote-unquote meta builds of like missile boats and double Zimmermans. And what I want to kind of show is a little bit of, is maybe some variety or maybe some things you guys can try for yourself, and through that maybe you can expand your build horizons as far as what you talk about. So if you haven't seen my video from a couple days ago, I encourage you to go watch it, talking about people kind of get stuck in the brain trap of watching all the clickbait, try this meta build, this meta breaking build nonsense. I kind of want to expand your horizons a little bit as far as what kind of items maybe you're looking at, what weapons you're kind of looking at to kind of see make it work for you. So these were actually recently featured in my tetrapod build, and it is the ACT-02 missiles. These are the active homing missile launchers. Now, I've always loved what I call, you might hear me constantly calling them the high ACT missiles. The reason is that a variation of the missiles have been in the game series for a long time. The high ACTs are one of my favorites from SL, and these things are very similar. Now, the difference being these fire pretty slow. If you haven't seen that, I encourage you to go watch the tetrapod video. It kind of demonstrates these pretty well. The way these things work is that they have a pretty slow lock on time, and I'm featuring specifically the double. I think the double makes it worth it. The single is not as worth it to me. It's only like a 1 second less lock on time, and the reload is a lot faster, only by comparison. I'd rather have this just have the double threat. So Coral missiles get banned a lot in a lot of tournaments. People don't like them for good reason. They are pretty strong and they go for a long time. They do a lot of damage. I think their damage is actually a little bit bugged as far as how it works. But these don't have that same problem, but they have the same kind of concept where they travel very slow, but they actually do home in on you pretty well. A lot of people seem to think the tracking on these things are pretty bad. They're not as good as the Coral missile, but that being said, these things have the ability to go through and essentially you can launch them, forget about them, and go about your business. So what I want to do here just a little bit is go into AC test to kind of demonstrate what I'm talking about. So what this does is in this mode, you launch these missiles. I'm going to enemy loaded up here. What you want to do is when the lock on happens, you set them, do your damage, punching right now, let them come in. So if you happen to manage to time your missile strikes around the time they're going to get stunned, they do a lot of damage. The cool thing is you have 2 sets of these. I definitely recommend running these in tandem. These things can actually basically hound your opponent a little bit. I'll do it from a distance here so you can kind of see how they work. They have a slow track, but they will follow them around, and they will do they go a pretty good distance. They do a lot of stagger by themselves. You saw impact damage, a lot of stagger just by themselves. Turn the enemy AI on. Back it up just a little bit. It will try to get away from them a little bit, but they will do a decent job of keeping up. And the reload, when you have a high, I have the 150 FCS. I definitely recommend the 150 because the 4 is a little bit slow. You want to you don't want to fire them in the air because they'll just hit the ground. If you launch them grounded like this, it'll keep them having they'll actually dodge quite a bit there. The biggest detriment I've seen is that they are a little, you want to fire them from a distance as much as possible. And the further away you are, the more likely they are to track. So the funny thing is, if you actually go up close here, see how close I was just then? It just keeps going. That's the problem with the tracking on these things. So you actually kind of want to fire these things from far away to get the most use out of them. That'll enable them essentially to track their opponents better. See that one whip back and went towards him. They are a little wonky. But like I said, with the right build and the right setup, they can be pretty devastating in general. See, that one actually followed him pretty good. So I think their tracking might be a little bit bugged, but like I said, I've had a little bit of success with them. I don't think they're as terrible as people make them out to be. Granted, they're no aperitif or hand missile. Because I think it's funny that everyone's using hand missiles as the best missiles in the game. I think it's hilarious. But they do their job pretty well for the most part. And as you can see, that even there, they caught up with them pretty well. So I definitely highly recommend trying those out. If you get a build that's kind of focused on getting the ACS stagger and having them follow up, these things can actually do a lot of work for you. So that is number 5. For number 4, I'm gonna have to give that to one of my favorites. It's on my Grammaton build, and that is the 60 LCD, the Diffuser laser cannon. This is basically a big laser shotgun on your back. I think people kind of get away from it a little bit because the charge attack is not very good on them. Granted, it has better range than the normal version, and it is a little bad, but I can tell you what, the fact that the cooling on these things is pretty good, the reload time on these things is pretty good. You know, especially on like tank legs, man, these things fit great on the wheelchair legs. They can do a lot of damage. You can see it's already ready again. I just shot it. Move around here again. Ready again, shot it. Ready again, shoot it. Ready again, shoot it. Tons of damage. I cannot believe these things are not used more than they are. It's basically like a high-powered energy shotgun on your back. If you have the right generator with it, pair with it like a 128 or 150 energy spec generator, these things just completely wreck up close. I'm a little bit surprised we haven't seen this used more often, especially in shotgun-oriented builds. The fact that I'm showing this off is probably a problem in all honesty, because I think these are kind of one of those things that you really could utilize them very well on the right build. And they do so much damage. And like I said, there's not much, I feel like there's not much use in getting the charge attack power or impact. It doesn't really aid it that much. The damage is very little. You're better off just using the regular shot. I realize you get some more range out of this. Maybe you have a minimum range, the one's keeping away from you. Try to get some extra damage, but in all honesty, this is to me where it's completely worth it is the regular shot. So number 4, definitely going to give it to the Diffuser cannon. So going to number 3. Number 3 is going to be what's in my right hand, the VP66 LH. This handgun is a sleeper. It's very accurate, especially if you get your recoil high enough with your aim control tracking. This thing just, the reason why I call it a sleeper is this. So many people are so focused on avoiding ACS or avoiding stagger or avoiding getting the red lined out and seeing it. But dude, this thing, it's incredible. So let me equip a second one here, just so you can kind of get a feel for it. I actually have a build video coming up pretty soon that uses 2 of these, just to give you guys a feel for it. You'll notice there's not a lot of ACS with them. So look, okay, so his stagger bar barely got in the orange, but look how much damage he's taken. I found what happens is people are so focused and they're so bent on their stagger bar and being worried about being staggered, but they do not pay attention to the fact that they're losing AP left and right with these handguns. Again, these are kind of like the diffusers in the back. If you can pair these with the higher energy spec generators, like he's nowhere near staggered. They take a lot. Takes quite a bit to overheat them, and his AP just got deleted. These things are something that I feel like a lot of people have not found a lot of use for, simply because they're so stuck in shotgun meta or whatever it may be you want to call it. These things are just good. And not only that, look at the ideal range and effective range of 192.47. It puts it right potentially inside the mid-range. If you get something that has decent recoil control on top of a good mid-range FCS, you can just spam these things from mid-range, and it's almost like having a rapid fire like energy machine gun, almost the way these things work. It's incredible. So if you have not taken much time to use these laser handguns, they are amazing. I definitely recommend you using them and trying them out. All right. So for number 2 is probably my personal favorite back weapon. I love these things so much. For those of you who have been in my Discord enough, know my affection towards this item. It's the Earshots. The Earshot grenades are just incredible. I know everyone says use Songbird, everyone use Stun Needle. I mean, I get it, but dude, the fact that these things have, it's the blast radius on these. So if you look at it by comparison to Songbird, yes, the Songbird does a little less damage. Yes, the Songbird has a little more impact, especially the cumulative impact a little bit more. But they have a little bit less direct hit adjustment. The recoil is only ever so slightly better. The effective range isn't as good. You have way more rounds, I realize, in the Songbird. But my goodness, and the reload time is harsh. It is very, very harsh, but the blast radius on these things is insane. So I'll equip one of these just as a comparison. A lot of people are used to using the songbirds quite a bit, and people can dodge out of them fairly easy because even though now granted they're a little more forgiving because of the shorter reload time, but you are not getting the Earshot. See how far away he was and the impact still hit him? Well, I'll wait for the reload here again just to actually I can supply it to make it go faster. Almost instant stagger. Apply again. It's just so much. The blast radius, if you actually are fairly up close to someone, you can get right above them. It just does a lot of work. It's a ton of work. I just shot him with a point blank without realizing it. The ear shots are just so cool. Like, I realize it's the old GNL. I realize this might be a little bit of nostalgia on my part, but I have used these weapons. I've used the ear shots to great effectiveness. People aren't used to seeing them. The blast radius of them is so huge and caused a lot of stagger because of it. I've seen these just wreck people who aren't expecting them. So if you're looking for a big payoff weapon, especially if someone is stunned, these things will delete AP. It's a ton of damage that it does to people. You get a nice solid hit on one of these things, they're gonna go bye-bye. Like they aren't there anymore. I realize I know the reload in this is really rough. I feel like the high reload actually is what balances these out, but I think people are so scared by the high reload they don't want to use them. But my goodness, I think the damage and the impact and the blast radius is a huge payoff. It does a lot to people. It's seriously, you need to give these things a shot. They are incredible. And number one, unused items, and I cannot believe I'm going to state this thing because like, how in the world have people let these things go for so long, is the Wuerger shotguns. Why I do not see a million builds with this weapon is beyond me. It makes no sense. These should be everywhere. Why they're not being used, I don't get it. So look, so right now with this build, this is an example. I am rocking the 128. Let's put the 150 on just to re-emphasize the damage here. These have the highest, these have some of the higher impact. Let's compare it to the shotguns, for example, what we're going with. Do it compared to the spas, only slightly less damage, which actually isn't technically true because we have the 150 spec generator. So actually this is doing a lot more damage than this. In fact, if you look at compared to this, it's doing equivalent damage of the it's almost the equivalent damage of the Zimmerman with the 150 spec energy generator. A little bit less, but not by much. The cumulative impact on this is slightly higher, but cumulative might be what they're looking for. But it has higher impact, and look at the reload. Look at the reload time of that thing. We're going from nothing to that. The Wuerger is basically fire as fast as it'll let you. It has a better effective range. It has a better ideal range. The recoil on it's way better. The only thing this thing has a better is a direct hit adjustment. But even a direct hit adjustment, this thing is not bad at all by comparison. And dude, and we're not even getting into the fact that it's the charge shot. The energy spike that this thing does is so damaging. It's insane. I mean, look at that. That's 1459, lots of impact. And if you have a high spec generator, this thing, it melts. It completely melts machines. So here's how fast I can shoot these things. Look at that. All the impact, all the damage, all the stun. AP is just gone, and I just then overheated them. All right. Like, oh, I don't overheat them. Well, yeah, we have to wait for long reloads between shotguns. Have to wait for that here. And then look how fast that recharge, and look at the damage. And done. Like, it's silly. It's just a lot. I'm honestly amazed that people who run Zimmermans don't run these things as their secondary back weapons to swap to. It does so much impact. I realize I shouldn't be helping Zimmerman builds, but I'm being fair. I don't understand why these things are not everywhere. I really don't. I feel like they should be basically everywhere. They just should be. Like, if you have not given these things a proper shot, and if you can fit a 128 or 150 energy spectator on these things will destroy your opponent. Destroy them. But you know, let's get this guy staggered. $4,000 damage on that charge shot on when he was staggered. 4,000. And look, it's already back from being overheated. Already. Dead. Just deleted. Like, why are you not using these? Why? Why in the world are you not using these weapons? Why do these not have more of a user base? Why do I almost never see these on any build online? Why? This is the reason why these are number one. I found these early on in the game and how awesome they were. Why in the world are these not everywhere? Is it just because Zimmermans exist? Is that it? Is it just because Zimmermans exist? Dude, these things are awesome. And while someone's coming in and assault boosting the double Zimmerman, I've shot them 3 or 4 times with this thing by the time they even get a reload. These things are nuts. You need to be using these things and using these things and using these things and surprising all your friends and surprising all your opponents. These things are utterly incredible. They're nuts. I mean, I honestly, if I were to, I'm never going to make a tier list because I think those things are basically just clickbait and just for making money for the most part. But if I were to make a tier list, these would be S tier for me. I'm being serious. These things do so much work. So much work. And they're very forgiving and they have a lot of versatility and they do a lot of damage and just a lot of stun. Like, oh man, I could talk about these things literally for an hour. Almost. Because they're just so good. I find myself having to stop myself from putting on almost every build I use because I just think they're that good. So try them out. The 5 items I showed you, I said they're not the most OP things in the world. They're not meta breaking. They're not gonna destroy everything. Although the Earshots destroy a lot, and these things really do destroy a lot. But the other, I want you just to broaden your horizons as far as items you feel like using that you think you can be effective with. And I have found success with all 5 of these items in the game. You have to find the right build and find the right play style. Find what fits for you. I realize these items are not going to be for everyone. I get that entirely. But I feel like these are things you should at least give a shot, especially this one. This one especially, you need to give a shot. Like try it. Like I'm begging you to try it. The Wuergers are insane. All right, there you go. Unless a big balance patch changes happen things here in the future, which we'll see here in the next couple months what happens. That's what I would recommend you giving a try. Try those 5 weapons out. Let me, hey, you know what? Take the weapons, make a build out of them, go out, try them out, and let me know how it went for you. Maybe it was terrible. Maybe I gave you a bad recommendation. Maybe I take is horrible. I definitely don't think number 1's a bad take because I don't see how you could do that bad with this one. These things are awesome, but maybe I'm wrong. And you know what? Leave a comment. Let me know how it goes for you. As always, if you want more Armored Core 6 content from a guy who's been playing the games for 20 years, like, subscribe, go below. Let me know. Thank you to all my members. To my members, those who don't know, I did a thank you post exclusive to them. Thanking them all for their support. I bought a new camera, hence why I'm in glorious 60 FPS. I bought some lighting, which means the lighting's more even, so it's not so weird. I just realized my thing got cut off over here. I have some sound pads on the side to help with the sound. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit ill, so my voice doesn't sound as good as it normally does. But I'm putting some money back into the stream, and there's a big tournament announcement coming up pretty soon. Not the one that's coming up here in a couple days. Actually, by the time this video is out tomorrow, which will be today, we're watching it today, excuse me, you'll have about 8.5 hours to submit your builds and to register for the No Missile tournament happening on Saturday. So get those registrations in, get your build submitted, that way you can participate in the tournament. Me and myself and Zealous from Armored Core Legacy we'll be commentating on it and trying to go full hype on it as much as we can and see if we can give you guys a good tournament experience. And then pretty soon we'll be announcing a very unique style tournament I think a lot of people are going to love, and I think it could actually make some things better for a lot of PvP games. So as always, I will see you in the next video.